Well, Germany and France appear to be ending their plans to build the next generation of fighter aircraft together. Several media outlets say the governments in Berlin and Paris are on the verge of announcing that they are not continuing work on a joint fighter jet component of the Future Combat Air System, or FCAS. The state-of-the-art aircraft has been on the drawing boards for years and was supposed to enter service in the 2040s. It was meant to replace existing warplanes, such as the Eurofighter, but the main companies involved in the project, Airbus and Dassault, haven't been able to agree how to divide up the work. German and French military planners also had different specifications for the new aircraft. Well, let's get more on this now with Ulrike Franke. She's a defense and military technology analyst at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Ulrike, can you explain to us in a nutshell why the joint fighter jet is being scrapped?
Yeah, so there were many problems, and honestly, this project had problems since its beginning. It was started in 2017, and there were already questions on, as was just mentioned, requirements for what the French and what the Germans needed. Then, of course, 2017 is quite a long time ago, and this was before the war against Ukraine and the German Zeitenwende, the kind of change in German defense policy. So a lot has changed since then. But honestly, I think the biggest problem is and was in this project that there really is no proper European defense industry. You had companies from different countries kind of competing with each other. So Dassault and Airbus basically didn't see each other as partners, but were competing, which was, again, the problem in the design of the project. And this now led to the end, not of the whole project, but at least of the fighter jet part of it.
So what's the price tag for this 9-year failed planning project? Do we have any idea how much money has been sunk into the joint fighter aircraft?
Honestly, the good news is that this isn't so much about the money that was being wasted for two reasons. Number one, this project has been delayed quite a bit. So initially, this aircraft was supposed to fly by 2040, be operational by then. And actually, there was supposed to be a demonstrator, well, next year. We're nowhere near that. So not as much money has been spent as one may have thought originally. But also the money that has been spent so far, and of course it is a few millions, quite a few millions, this is money that is lost in the sense that all the research that has been done, not just on the fighter, but also on the combat cloud, as we like to call it, on the remote carriers, i.e. the drones, like this isn't lost. And both companies, Airbus and Dassault, will continue developing aircraft, and indeed the project is going to continue on the combat cloud and the remote carriers. So of all the things, that we can worry about, the money isn't one that is particularly high on my list.
Okay, well, let's talk about what many people are worried about, and that is Europe's ability to defend itself. What consequences could this decision have for Europe's military capabilities?
So first of all, I think what's really bad about this is the signal it sends, because it very much sends the signal that in an area where the United States is basically leaving Europe one way or another, the Europeans seem unable to develop their own system together. And this is a terrible signal. So from that point of view, this is just kind of very bad news. Now, there are other European projects on fighter jets that still exist. Most importantly, GCAP, which is a British, Italian, Japanese system that is ongoing. And this was always seen as a kind of competitor to FCAS. So at least there is that. Of course, Sweden is also still building aircraft. There is a question of what France and Germany are actually going to do now, independently of each other, but they may also be building something. So I think there will be some European solution at one point, but of course, right now, there isn't, and one project has just been cancelled. So maybe, for example, Germany is going to end up buying more US fighter jets, so more F-37. So again, kind of the signaling of this with regard to becoming more independent from the United States and building up European sovereignty is really quite bad.
So how can Europe get over this competition you mentioned in your first answer that brought this project to a standstill, this different countries competing within a defense matrix, but not coming up with systems that can fit the needs of Europe as a whole. How can they get past that, European countries get past that, at a time when cooperation is arguably needed more than at any time in the past 75 years?
Yeah, you're asking exactly the right question, because this is really the question that is going to determine, or the answer of this is going to determine whether or not there actually is going to be a European defense industry or not. I think it really comes down to the incentive structure. The way it is at the moment is that companies don't really have an incentive to work together, because they actually fear that if they work together, then the other competitor, the competitor from another country, is going to get ahead eventually. And so as long as the incentive structure is in that way, you can't even blame the companies for doing what they're doing, because they're responsible to their stakeholders, right? So I think this is really up to the political realm, to the EU, but really the countries themselves, to say, we want a European defense industry, and we also want it in cases where this may be bad for our own national defense industry. And as long as this is not the case, we're always going to have this competition situation where countries and companies say they want to work together, but this willingness to work together ends the moment where it benefits another country, another company more than themselves.
How worried should we be about this situation where Europe feels threatened by Russia, given what Russia has done in Ukraine? The military analysts are saying that by 2029, Russia may be in a position to attack a NATO country and may feel emboldened to do that because of Europe's weakness. What needs to change in order for Europe to be able to defend itself without relying on the U.S.?
Yeah, so we need to be worried, unfortunately. Indeed, there are these reports that say that Russia is building up its military capabilities way beyond what it needs for its war in Ukraine. And there is a threat to Europe and to NATO and to the European Union. So we need to prepare for that. We're already seeing hybrid warfare, especially on the eastern flank with the drone incursions. So definitely there is a concern here. Now, Europeans are actually already doing a lot. I mean, defense spending has gone up significantly over the last few years. That's good news. What is missing is European cooperation, not just in the defense industry that we were just talking about, but also just militarily speaking, that indeed is independent of the United States. Because the situation that we have right now is that the defense of Europe is organized through NATO.
Right.
Which, so far was good. But the problem is, of course, that the United States is withdrawing from NATO while still kind of being there. And there's a real fear that this could lead to Europe be paralyzed. So what we need now is a European cooperation, militarily speaking, that works even if the United States is not there at all, or indeed is saying, we're even blocking NATO as such. And that we don't have yet.
Okay, Ulrike, thank you so much. That was Ulrike Franke with the European Council on Foreign Relations.
My pleasure.